Alright, so in this video I'm going to be answering some of your questions that you asked me in my previous video about stuttering. So here goes. My first question that I got is, has anyone ever commented on your speech? And yes, I have had multiple people comment on the way that I talk. Most of those people though were younger kids, just because they were curious and had probably never heard somebody stutter before. I remember one specific time, it was at my co-op placement, and I co-opted in a grade 7 classroom. I was helping out this one student, and I was stuttering a little bit and stuff. And then she asked me if I was nervous, and I was like, no. And then she said, so why are you stuttering? And I said, oh, it's just something that I was born with, and yeah, I just stutter sometimes. And she was like, oh. And my younger cousins have also commented on it, and they kind of just ask why I stutter, just because they're curious about it and stuff, which I don't mind telling them that it's just something I was born with. There's this other time though at work, and this comment was a much more like rude comment. I was working in the drive-thru and I was taking the orders, but I was also at the first window. And so I took the order, and I stuttered a little bit, but like I didn't really think it was a big deal or anything. And they came up to the window and they were like, oh, I think your speaker is broken because like it keeps on repeating things and it's acting really weird. And immediately I knew it was because I was stuttering. And I was like, oh yeah, maybe, I don't know. It was just a very weird situation and just kind of made me feel really bad. Alright, now for this question, I really had to think about this one a lot. And the question is, has my stutter affected being in a romantic relationship with someone? Now, I have a few points about this one. My first point is having to meet my boyfriend's family and friends, because obviously I want to make a good impression, but I'm just afraid that like if I'm stuttering then they're gonna be like, oh, that's kind of weird, why would you date somebody who stutters? Like, that's kind of weird. I'm just kind of afraid that they're going to judge me like that. And it never actually has happened where they were rude about my stutter, but that is definitely one thing that makes having a relationship a little bit harder. Another point is that I get jealous quite easily about other girls. I get jealous because I can't talk as well as they can, so my brain immediately thinks, oh no, what if he likes how she talks better than how I talk, which sounds stupid, but like that's just what goes through my brain. And yeah, those are a couple points about how that affects my relationship. The next question is, do you stutter around your family members? And yes. For some reason, I sometimes stutter a lot around them. It's kind of weird. Alright, so the next question is, have I had any bad experiences with my stutter at work, and how do I deal with them? I have had quite the amount of bad experiences at work. Because I work at a fast food restaurant, I am always talking to new people and customers. That's basically my entire job, is talking. So I have had many things happen that were embarrassing. The main lesson I've learned from being at work with a stutter is that you really have to face your fears, or else your fears will just keep on building up. Now, at work, I remember a while ago, I hated taking orders on the drive-thru because obviously I stuttered and stuff. So there were multiple times where I had to switch positions with somebody else because I just really didn't want to take orders. And what I learned over time was that if I just continued to take orders and just calm myself down and get through it, like get through the shift, then I won't be as scared for next time. Now I can take orders almost perfectly well, And I really believe that it was because I kept on facing my fears about taking orders, and it just kind of, the fears went away. Another thing about work is that I am extremely quiet and I barely ever talk to my coworkers. I find that this is kind of a bad thing because I'm avoiding talking because of my stutter. The more I avoid it and get into the habit of not talking, the more my fear will build up. So I really need to work on talking more to my coworkers and not being as afraid. My next question is, am I in college? And I'm not in college yet, but I will be in September. Alright, so the next question I thought was kind of an interesting one. And it is, sorry, I'm just going to read it straight from my computer. When a teacher puts you on the spot at school, do you tend to block or refuse to talk at all? Now from what I've experienced, I tend to block when a teacher puts me on the spot, and I feel like it's a very scary thing for anybody when a teacher puts you on the spot and asks you to answer a question or something, because you immediately get afraid and you're like, oh my gosh. And we all know as stutterers that being afraid or nervous is one of the worst things because it makes your throat and mouth tense up and you just can't talk. So for me, most of the time I would tense up and I would block for like a second, but then eventually I would get out the answer. But those scenarios are always the scariest. Now lastly, I got a question and it was asking me if I'd ever thought about a stutter as an iceberg analogy. And I had to give this one a little bit of thought, but I do believe that stuttering is a perfect representation of the iceberg analogy. If we're comparing this to an iceberg, what you see from a person who stutters is that, oh, they just stumble on some words, and other people think, oh, it's probably not a big deal to them. What you don't see about stutterers is how much it affects them emotionally and socially and like mentally, because I find that whenever I stutter, afterwards I am constantly thinking about it, like, oh my gosh, what did that person think of me? Am I gonna stutter again? And I keep on thinking of these questions and I get so much anxiety about it. Other people don't realize how much we go through just because we're like stumbling on some words. It's definitely not just stuttering that we have to deal with. It's what's going on mentally that we have to deal with so much more. Alrighty, so I hope that you liked this video. If you would like me to do another Q&A, then let me know in the comments below. And yeah, I will see you in my next video. Bye.